STEM in 30 presents The Adventures of Marty and Beth, Comics in Space and Aviation.
It's a plane. It's a rocket. It's Beth and Marty?
Hey, what happened to us?
We turned into cartoons.
What? I wonder what happens when I do this.
Pow!
How cool is that?
It must be time for an epic adventure. Graphic novels capture all sorts of stories. They can be funny or action-packed and include lovable characters like Snoopy, or your favorite superheroes battling villains.
Or us.
They make the impossible possible and spark our imagination in so many ways.
Let's get started with our animated adventure.
This is STEM in 30. Today, we're going to be exploring graphic novels and cartoons as cartoons.
Let's get started with graphic novels.
These are books in comic format, but resemble novels in length and story development.
People have been telling stories with pictures for a long time.
From cave paintings to tapestries. Are you ready for our first adventure?
Oh yeah.
Let's go.
Marty and Beth had a very important meeting to get to. Time was against them. How would they get to the meeting? It seemed so far away.
What are we gonna do? We have to get to the library. We have to get there fast.
I have a plan.
Beth ran down the hall and through an unmarked door that Marty had never been through before. Once through the door, Marty found himself in the middle of the rocket pit of the museum.
I don't think we can take a rocket, can we?
Of course we can. We're cartoons, and cartoons can do just about anything.
Marty and Beth step into the rocket. A hidden door opens in the ceiling of the museum, and the rocket zooms out with Beth and Marty on board.
I sure hope you know how to fly this thing.
I can definitely fly it. Land? That's a different story.
Blammo! Smoke settles outside the library.
See, no problem. We are here and we have a minute to spare.
Marty and Beth run up the stairs.
Hi, Marty and Beth. You two sure know how to make an entrance.
Wow, it's Mrs. Arth. She was my elementary school librarian. How are you?
I'm great. I understand you all have some questions about graphic novels.
We sure do. How did graphic novels get started?
The graphic novel, as we think of, are maybe like comic books. First ones were like in the 1930s, and that's when Superman came about. But in the decades following that, it's been an evolution. The 70s and 80s were the big superhero decades. And then the 1990s is when Japanese manga became really, really popular. And that is the style of graphic that has really influenced what you see on the shelves in libraries and bookstores now.
How do graphic novels help readers?
I have to admit that I was one of those people that was slow to understand how important these books are to different kinds of readers. But as an elementary librarian, I saw them as, and see them now as, motivational tools, particularly for reluctant readers. They have the engaging artwork. They provide students with reading difficulties through the pictures that are kind of a scaffold to help them not be so intimidated by huge blocks of texts. With the graphic bubbles, the texts are chunked, so they're less intimidating for kids. One of the things I really think is good about them is that they don't scrimp on vocabulary. They're great vocabulary builders because they don't dumb down the language.
Who reads graphic novels?
At the public library where I work, we have graphic sections in the children's area. We have a graphic section in the teen area. And we have a graphic section in the adult area, which in just the past 2 years has doubled in size. The books are of every genre. graphic novels today, they cover so many genres. We have fiction, we have nonfiction, and a lot of the old favorites that parents read, they're seeing their kids coming home with those favorite series in graphic novel form. A lot of graphic novels now are showing up on state award lists. Graphic novels are finally getting the recognition they deserve. They're finally being seen as real literature because they are.
Thanks for talking with us. We have another appointment to get to.
That was awesome.
It's amazing to see how important graphic novels are.
My favorite graphic novel has always been Mouse by Art Spiegelman. It's based on his family history, and it was the first graphic novel to win a Pulitzer Prize, which is regarded as the highest national honor in literary achievement.
And it was great getting to catch up with my elementary school librarian.
Who knows how long this cartoon thing will last for us? We'd better take advantage of it. Ready for launch?
Let's go!
As Marty and Beth try to get back to the museum, something seems to have gone wrong.
Uh-oh.
What do you mean, uh-oh?
Well, the ship seems to have taken a wrong turn.
Instead of going back to the museum, they went off course.
Where are we going?
Honestly, I'm not sure, but that looks an awful lot like the International Space Station.
That's no moon.
The rocket ship hurtles towards the ISS, and Marty and Beth need to act quickly.
We need to come up with a plan.
Well, this could be helpful. A lot of astronauts were inspired by comic book characters.
That's not the kind of plan I was talking about. I'm talking about not slamming into the International Space Station and turning all of us into a whole bunch of space junk.
Oh, yeah. I've got that under control. This ship has auto-docking.
Instead of returning to Earth, Marty and Beth dock at the ISS, where they are greeted by astronaut Mike Massimino.
Marty and Beth, what are you doing here?
Hey, Mike, we're a little off track.
We can see that.
We were at the library learning about graphic novels, and we were supposed...
Hey, I loved comics and graphic novels when I was growing up. Snoopy was my favorite. One of my earliest memories was going to Radio City Music Hall and seeing a boy named Charlie Brown. It all happened in 1969. I was 6 going. I turned 7 in August that year, but the first thing that happened that affected my life was I watched Neil Armstrong walk on the moon. So that set my passion for space. And then I loved Charlie Brown and Snoopy, and we went to see A Boy Named Charlie Brown, which was a motion picture and a cartoon. But I would read those comics just about every day. Anytime Peanuts was in a newspaper, I'd read it.
You flew with a Snoopy doll. What's the story behind that?
Yeah, one of the things I got, I think it was my older brother got me this toy Snoopy, astronaut Snoopy, dressed up like a Buzz Aldrin. So I had me and Snoopy, and we had these backyard adventures. And when it came time for me to fly in space, it was only my second space flight. I ended up taking him with me. So we had backyard adventures, me and Snoopy pretending to be on the moon in space, and then I took him with me for real.
Can you tell us about Snoopy's involvement in the space program?
Well, there's a Snoopy award that's given out. It's the award that astronauts give out to folks who support space flight, and it's only given out to less than 1% of the workforce. That's the small group of people that get this award. And you get a little pin, you get a certificate, and your Snoopy is flown in space on a previous flight, and it's very meaningful. It's the highest award that we can give out at NASA. You know, there's a lot of talk about Snoopy, but I would have to say, if you ask my family, like who I'm most like, it's Charlie Brown. So I think I am really Charlie Brown. There's no doubt about it. That's who I am. That's who I identify with. For me, like being an astronaut was almost like an alter ego. You know, the cool guy that would show up in a flight suit, and I could adopt that and play that role too. And that was part of me too. So I think I kind of had, my personal life, I think, is definitely Charlie Brown. But I think my life as an astronaut, I went in there as Snoopy. I identified with both.
Who knew Snoopy could be so inspirational?
Apparently NASA did. The museum even has some Snoopy memorabilia in our collection. Everything from plush beagles to banners.
Mass, you've helped us learn more about comics and how graphic novels can inspire. But can you help us get home?
Our rocket ship seems to have experienced some technical problems.
Yeah, about your ship. We've been looking at it, and unfortunately, we are going to need a lot of time to fix it.
Oh no! What are we gonna do?
Actually, we have a plan for you that would also help us out, but it's top secret. You see, some science fiction is based in reality, things that could happen or real events. And sometimes reality is inspired by fiction. We have a top secret spaceship docked here, and we need to get it back to Earth. It's your only way home. There's only one problem. None of us will go in there. Oh, and one last thing. As soon as you land, open this envelope and do exactly what it says.
I wonder why they won't go in there.
I don't know. Since this is a fictional ship, maybe we should call Margaret, the chair of the Space History Department and the museum's resident expert on science fiction and pop culture.
Good idea, let's go.
I've got a bad feeling about this.
It'll be fine. Margaret is awesome. We just have to figure out how to contact her.
Ooh, here's the video phone. Let's see.
Margaret, how do you hear us?
Marty and Beth, I've got you loud and clear.
Margaret, we're kind of stuck on the International Space Station, and Mike Massimino put us in this amazing spaceship, but we don't know much about it.
Oh, great. You are in a completely fictional ship, but we've included elements from a bunch of different comics. We've loaded it up with a ton of graphic novels and science fiction artifacts. Those were used in an exhibit we did on the planet NASM 9. You should all walk around a little bit.
Margaret, these comics and graphic novels are amazing. But why are they part of the National Air and Space Museum?
Comics are an important part of the collection at the National Air and Space Museum because they're one of the earliest ways that imagined spaceflight was visualized, that you could see what it might look like to have a city on another planet or a vehicle that could go from Earth to there and back. One of the really important comics in space history, and thus in our collection, is Buck Rogers. It started in 1929, and it was one of the very first adventure strips. And they were looking to take a kind of established formula of the adventure into a new venue of having it be about space. It turned out to be immensely popular. The Buck Rogers daily strip turns into a Sunday strip. It turns into comic books, Little Big Books, a whole line of merchandise, starting with paper toys and then three-dimensional toys that kids could hold. It really becomes a phenomenon in the 1930s. The museum's collection has artifacts that connect to lots of different comics and also pieces that were inspired by comics. So everything from Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon to Tom Corbett and Captain Video in the 1950s, and I would argue even things like Star Trek, Star Wars going forward have that at their core influence of what started with comics.
Didn't Buck Rogers fight aliens and bad guys?
Hey, what's behind this door?
Don't open that door!
Pow! Bam! Kapow!
Wow, that was close. But since that's taken care of, look over here. I really like this mask because it is the face of Wilma Deering as drawn in the comics. And it has tiny little slits in the eyes that would allow you to just barely be able to see out of it. But by being behind this, you could imagine that you were Buck Rogers' sidekick and love interest, Wilma Deering. And this is a selection of ray gun toys based on the early Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon comics. I love the difference between them, the ways that the Buck Rogers guns are really plain. They're black. They have lots of fluted pieces on them, but they don't look particularly flashy. The Flash Gordon guns are bright red. They're bulbous. They have giant flaring pieces. They are literally and figuratively flashier than anything coming out of the Buck Rogers universe. Now, this little spaceship toy was designed so that if you pulled it back, it had friction wheels, and as it ran across your floor, it actually has a flint in the back of it that would send little sparks across your floor. Harmless sparks, the packaging reassured your parents. And you'll notice it's a police cruiser. early comics were grabbing from all kinds of genres. So it was a great way to grab lots of different things and make it spacey and fun. The universe of comics and graphic novels right now is incredibly multifaceted and interrelated. We're seeing major motion pictures coming out of classic comic strips from the golden age and the silver age of comics. We're seeing them influencing video games, online presentations, and then, that being tied back into comics and graphic novels, which are becoming mainstream and lauded. There are comic books that have graphic novels that have won major national book awards. So it's a particularly rich form because I think you have generations of fans who are the creators who want to pay homage to things that they grew up with and how important that was in their lives and in their visual imaginary, and then bringing that into the present. I hate to cut your tour short, but you both have a work meeting coming up pretty soon. You better start heading back. See you soon back on Earth, and thanks for bringing my ship home. Did you get the envelope?
We sure did.
Great. As soon as you land, open it and do exactly what it says.
How cool is it that the collection of the National Air and Space Museum tells so many stories about graphic novels, comics, and science fiction?
I'm really digging the toys that were made because of comics and graphic novels.
It's time for Marty and Beth to head back to Earth.
You did such a great job of flying that last ship. Can I give this one a try?
Sure, this one's easy.
Woohoo! Where's the start button?
Okay, start by engaging the widget near the flux capacitor. Then hold the translation manifold at 77% for the first 11 seconds. After that, push to 97%, but don't go past 98 or we'll explode. Don't forget to depress the modulation indicator. If any of the warning lights go off, you can pretty much ignore them except for lights 14, 36, and 138. Those are bad news. Finally, the stellar modem needs to be turned to 11.
Okay, so maybe you should fly.
Cool. I forgot to tell you, you can also just click the autopilot button.
Marty and Beth finally get back to Earth, and Beth lands the spaceship on the National Mall.
Beth, we're on the National Mall, right by the National Air and Space Museum. We can see the Capitol and the Washington Monument from right here. I think people are going to notice this ship.
The envelope. Open the envelope.
Marty opens up the envelope and a note comes out that reads,
As soon as you land, find the two buttons labeled Mize and Minnie. Punch those buttons at the exact same time. Then run. You will have 10 seconds to get out of the ship. Once out, please return the ship to me. Thanks, Margaret.
Marty and Beth push the buttons. As they do, the alien wakes up and lunges at them. They duck under his grasp and sprint for the door. As soon as they clear the hatch, the ship starts to glow and vibrate. Suddenly, it shrinks to the size of a toy.
Oh, how cool is that?
Now that ship can hide in plain sight on display at the National Air and Space Museum.
I wonder what other stories our artifacts tell.
We have a meeting to get to and a ship to return.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and learned a little bit about graphic novels and how important they are.
Are you reading a graphic novel? We'd love to add it to our reading list. Drop the title in the comments.
And if you like this show, be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to the National Air and Space Museum's YouTube channel.
Thanks for watching.
Beth, while we're still cartoons, I've got an idea. Mass gave us a couple of jetpacks. Let's go!
Hi, my name is Madeline, and my favorite graphic novel is Allergic. Allergic is my favorite graphic novel because she's allergic to so many pets, but she still finds one she can have.
Hello, my name is Waverly, and my favorite graphic novel is Frizzy. because it's about a girl my age struggling with hair problems, and I can relate to that.
Hi, my name's Blaze, and my favorite graphic novel book is Messenger. I like Messenger because it's a book about Muhammad Ali, and it's a boxing book.
Hi, my name's Alexi, and this is my favorite graphic novel, Squished. This is my favorite graphic novel because it's kind of like my family, and we're all really loving but chaotic. And it was really fun to read this, and I hope that if you decide to read this, you enjoy it.